Hi guys, it's still Ray or Irene. Welcome to my first video of the channel. I decided to make a new channel just because might as well, why not? And this will be my main channel where I post videos from now on. So, what better video to start with my new channel than a tier list for the current NAWCQ format for Yu-Gi-Oh! So these are going to be my top, basically, again, these are just my thoughts on the format. Whatever you, and then it's just an opinion, nothing else, nothing more. But let's get right to it. So we have tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and unplayable dog shit. Don't play any of these fucking decks if I put them here. Please don't. So we'll go one at a time. So first, Branded. Branded's probably one of the best decks in the format for sure. You have a lot of good game into decks like KT. You have good games into decks like well, basically pretty much everything in the format. Doomsday is really strong into Doomsday. It's really strong into like decks like, it's pretty quite good into decks like Striker. I think the only issue with this deck is you get like turbo annihilated by Ritual and Darkness. That deck is, you just kind of auto lose the deck, unfortunately. It is what it is. But you do have a lot of really strong games into every other deck in the format. So I think this is very, very good for this upcoming format. Then we have Doomsday. I think that deck is like pretty good. But just like, okay, so Doomsday is one of my favorite decks of all time. I love this deck. But the issue with Doomsday is like Super Poly just kind of like kills you instantly, so you kind of just auto lose to decks like Branded and any deck that can play Super Poly with a really strong target, like Fairy Tale, for example. It also just kind of dies to board breakers right now, and also because people are setting Kaiju's, it's not as good. But into decks like KT or decks like Striker, this deck is pretty strong, especially when you establish your full end board and you have the trap card set up. KT especially struggles with the deck a lot. So there's that. But I mean, I do love this deck to death, but I just don't think it's very good this coming format. I mean, it's still good enough to be tier 1, but it's probably the worst of the best decks in the format. Then we have KT. This deck is always the best deck in the room, no question. You can play a bunch of hand traps. You have really, really good strong games against a majority of decks in the format. You have really good cards into like decks like Patron FTK. You don't have to worry about the FTK decks in the format at all. Again, your only struggle matchups are particularly Striker and Branded, but even then, it's like they're still playable. They're just not great for you. Then we have like Darkness. I think this deck is very, very good. You have a lot of good. You can play a lot of strong cards, especially for the Azamina variant. You can play a lot of strong cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance and Insertion from deck via Pharaonic Advent, which is a very, very strong tool. You also have really good. You also have really, really strong going second game. If you're able to establish a single one of your casual monsters on the field, you basically win the game because you can just like blow up their opponent's full field and break boards very, very easily. I think the only issue with this deck you lose is that you lose to a critical mass of hand trap. So KT is one of your worst matchups, and Striker is also a really, really bad matchup with this deck because all their cards do target, and you struggle into beating those cards a lot. I think Roulette is a good deck, don't get me wrong, but it just has issues that some decks do not have. But yeah, that's where I put it. I think Mitsurugi is a very, very good deck that's coming from. Also, I think this deck has a lot of good non-engine tools that most decks don't have. Cards like Impulse, cards like Shifter. You can also play Super Poly, another thing. Also, I fucking hate Super Poly. Like, genuinely, fuck that card. That card should not be legal. Like, put that fucking ban that card. Like, seriously, that card is the most degenerate thing ever. Anyways, I think Mitsurugi is a very, very good deck. It's quite good. I think the only issue with this deck is like sometimes you just lose to her in a hand trap, like an Ash Blossom on your fucking Saji, or you just kind of just like die to like roll, obviously. But the advantage of this deck does outweigh a lot of disadvantages because you'll still lose a lot of the popular hand traps right now, which are Ogre and Harmonia. Then we have Striker. I think Striker is a very, very good deck for Combat. Also, you have a lot of good games into most decks. I think the only decks you basically have a good game into KT, you have a good game into Branded, you have a really good game into you have a decent game into Ritual Light Darkness and Mitsurugi. I think the only issue with the deck is that you struggle into FTK decks. You do kind of just auto lose them into decks like Pure Patron, into decks like Art Mage, to decks like hell, Train FTK. Right? Any deck that can actually kill you the first time that prevents you from actually breaking a board, you kind of just lose to. But into every other format, I think this is very, very strong and is very well positioned for the meta game. We have Elf Note. I think Elf Note's very good. I think Elf Note's like just the worst version of Cooltoon, essentially. You basically play them on the same animation as Cooltoon will play, but a fuck ton of hand traps. But your going first endboard is significantly stronger because you can use and Dawn Dragster, Crystal Wing, Heart. You can just draw fucking 20 million cards of Hyper Librarian. But I think the only issue with this deck is like you're going second slightly worse, and also Crown is a game is just an instant win button against this deck. If you Forbidden Crown into the center main into monster in the center of column zone and they don't have a Regina hand, they just kind of lose the game. So there is that. I think the deck's still very, very strong. It just has issues that KT won't have or Brandon doesn't have, so we should put to 0-1. I think Mouse Ignis is probably the first tier ticket format. I think this deck can play again like Mitsurugi will play a lot of strong non-engine cards like Impulse, cards like Shifter, cards like Dimensional Fissure. I think the only issue with this deck is like it doesn't like do much nowadays because you lost a lot of its best tools. It also doesn't play enough extenders anymore. So sometimes a single hand trap does kind of just fuck you in certain hands. Also, moving bodies instead deck is very, very good, regardless, no matter what happens. Like popping a Dormouse before they can activate the effect is always good. So I think is good, don't get me wrong, because you can books knowledge you can play, but I don't think it's great. And Fairy Tale is same kind of deal. I think Fairy Tale is a really good deck in certain aspects where you can search fucking Secret Village, which is insane, obviously. But I think this deck also has very glaring weaknesses, like a choke point on the Wick Hat, which is extremely strong, like ashing a Wick Hat as much as ends their turn. Or in addition, something like freaking whatchamacallit. Droll is really good in this deck also. I think this deck without Veri is so much worse. I think if this deck had a Veri, this deck would be actually pretty playable. It'd be pretty good. But without Veri, this deck just feels mid at best. Blitzquick is interesting. I think this deck is pretty cool. You can do some generate things like summoning Ryo turn 0 and Lightning Rod, whatever it's called, turn 0. It also has a really, really strong cards in the format like that. The one that pops 3, like in summon. I can't remember the level 8 Blitzquick, the one that just summons itself and pops 3 cards on the field. That card is insanely strong. It's also one excuse you play Blitzquick. But I think the issue with playing Blitzquick is like, it's really hard for you to play into board sometimes. Your field spell is really important for it to resolve, so your opponent just gets rid of it. Or Ogres or something like that. It is quite bad for you, especially with how popular Ogre is going to be within this upcoming format. I think the deck has potential, but I think it needs second wave for it to be actually really good. I think it's still like a cute deck to play for the NAWCQ. I don't think it's you can still definitely steal games with this deck. I just don't think it's like crazy strong. This deck exists. I think it's still good. Don't get me wrong. I think it's really good into pure branded, but like it's every other deck in the format just feels like okay at best. Like you're sacrificing non-engine for a secondary engine that's like okay at best. Like the one reason to ever play Branded Echo over pure branded is to beat pure branded, but why do that when pure branded beats every other deck in the format, right? Angelic Elf Note is, I think, just a worse version of pure Elf Note. Like you're basically sacrificing a lot of your powerful non-extra deck slots for a floodgate effect that is only good into some decks in the format. Don't get me wrong, it is a really strong extender in its own rights, but it just feels very underwhelming at best. I think this deck is kind of fake, to be honest. I think Fallen Roulette is like decent. It's okay, but I think the issue with this deck is like you're basically asking to lose to cards you wouldn't normally lose to. So the theory behind it is you're sacrificing more engine pieces for playing more non-engine, so it's the opposite of Branded for being branded. But I think for roulette specifically, you kind of want to play more engine pieces to play through interaction because of the fact that your M board otherwise is significantly weak. Like the roulette M board, the fallen roulette M board is like turning on fucking like literally the only thing you're ending on is the roulette cards and you're backed up by non-engine, which is like fine, I guess. But if you roll it's proportionate that could stop any way, shape, or form, like getting ogred or getting ash boss and mind shuffled, you kind of just lose the game. It's like just it doesn't feel great. Like it's a really good control deck, don't get me wrong, but it's like why you play control deck when you just play combo slot and just win every single game, going first, game 2 and 3. That's my only issue with this deck. Pure Patient is fucking crazy. It still is really, really strong. I think this deck is has some degenerate things it can do. Obviously, setting up Sloth with a tree is insanely good. Surprise. But I think this deck does follow in a bit of favorites because like cards like Olive Golem and Kaijus are very, very popular right now. So I think if we're gonna play Preparation. Sorry for the yawning. It's fucking 4 a.m. right now. I'm recording this at 4 a.m. for some reason. But I think if you're gonna play Preparation, you're just gonna play you play the trade. You put the Gustav Mask, right? Like, why give your opponent a chance to claim? You just kill him outright. You know. I think Patron Armage is really, really strong. This deck has a lot of really strong tools going for it. It's Emperor going versus basically FTK. And it has a lot of good going second tools. You can just push through interaction very well. I think the only issue with this deck is like you kind of just do fall to a critical mass of hand traps, and Ogre on the field spell is a very, very good also. Sometimes you can play through hand traps, but other times you just kind of don't. It's a very weird deck. I wouldn't put it higher than tier 1. I honestly, there's like both Doomsy and Patron if they are interchangeable. Like either or could be bottom of tier 1 or top of tier 2. But yeah. Invoke is fine. I think this deck is like whatever at best. It has issues like it has the same issues like Rolla does, where like you lose 2 critical mass hand traps, but your end board is significantly worse. Like you're ending on a Macrocosmos, which again, don't get me wrong, is good, but like Striker doesn't care about that card. Branded doesn't care about that card. Or Branded kind of cares, but Mitsurugi doesn't care about that card. Doomsday doesn't care about that card like at all. Like there's a lot of just really clean outs to this card. Like cards like Widow Anchor or Crown, like just out the cards super easily. So it's like it's hard to say how good the deck is. It's weird. I don't love this deck. I think it's fine at best. Memento exists. It's cool. It has options. It's decent. I think Angelique is like a weird deck in this format. It has cool, interesting things it can do, but why would you ever play this deck when you can play like Patron or Archmage kind of type deal? Like if you're gonna play this, you play the FTK variant, and this is like, yeah. RT exists. RDA also exists. Clown Crew, Mitsurugi, and Clown Crew are the same fucking deck. This deck is neat. Don't get me wrong, it's a cool deck, but I think it's like you can draw like 10 million cards. I think the issue with the deck is like you kind of just fall to a single droll. You just instantly die, and if you're gonna die to a droll anyways, you might play a better deck like Roulette or Mitsurugi for that matter, or Striker even. Instead of playing a deck that can, they need to be hardcore non-engine. As you know, our first exists. This is like around. I think Teleron is actually a really good deck for the top of the territory at least. I think this deck has. If you're playing an FTK deck, this is probably the best FTK deck you've been playing besides Patron. You skip your opponent's turn. If you high roll, you're winning every single game. Right? Like into decks like Striker, this is fucking absurd because of what is Striker gonna do into you if you fucking go turn skip them. They just lose. Like it's like, yeah, it's quite good if you turn skip them. Don't get me wrong. PK is cool. Oh my god. I think this deck has nice applications that most other decks don't have. I think this deck would have been much better if you had the rank 4 that lets you make Ophion, obviously. But this deck is, I think, much better if you combine it with some other engines. But as of now, by itself, it's like fine. I think an aircraft is also a pretty good sleeper deck for this format. Obviously, some people still don't know what these aircraft cards do, so it's nice to have, for sure. I don't think it's gonna be great, but I think it's a cute option to play for the format. Don't play this deck. 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 Actually, hold on. Well, hold on. Let's actually read this a little bit. These are kind of playable. I think Automat Raziel has options. I think there's some Raziel variants have been flooding around recently. It's still in rank 4 slot at the end of the day, so you can still make a pretty strong end board going first. You still have a lot of options. So many engine pieces to push through interactions. So actually, it's probably more tier 3. This deck is still pretty bad. I think Synchro is like Synchro kind of same thing with Automat Raziel. I think it's just a Synchro version of this deck is all. Shuttles exists, kind of have deal. So does Magnet Warrior. This deck still doesn't make Nappies. And Nappies is still a good card. Don't get me wrong. Yummy Fiendsmith is like exists also. So does White Forest, and so does Hero exists. I think Train FTK is also. I think Train FTK is the same thing until I but slightly worse kind of type deal. Like you just FTK your opponent if you go first, right? Okay, now you can now these decks are the actual unplayable ones. Like I don't think any of these decks are actually like any good at all. Like, what are you doing if you're gonna fucking like? What are you doing if you're playing any of these decks for the next fucking format? Like, you're asking to lose the game essentially. Like, like playing Blue Eyes and fucking 2026. Like, cool, man. Playing Moonlight when it's a kaiju format, very epic. You're so good at the game, I guess. Wow, you're so talented. You're so cool. Wow. But yeah, I think this is my tier list for the upcoming format. Thank you for watching. I'll probably try to post more videos. Probably post some deck profiles later on to see what decks are good and what decks are not. More deck discussions, stuff like that. Thank you for watching. Bye.